This weekend is the biggest party of the summer as WWE not only presents SummerSlam, but NXT TakeOver 36. We're going to run down both of those cards in their entirety on what will go down as the greatest SummerSlam preview in the world. Yes, that's a shot at Sam Roberts. But why? Because I can name the podcast. And that's the bottom line, because Mr. Podcasting said so. Hello and welcome to this special NXT TakeOver 36 and SummerSlam preview edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast, the show that is for the fans, by the fans. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. Thank you for joining me. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ChrisBelcher24. The show is at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Make sure you give us a follow. Interact with us on social media. You want to make sure that you follow us as well, because we are going to be in Las Vegas, Lord willing, this weekend for all of your SummerSlam coverage. There's going to be bonus content on our YouTube channel as well as all of our social media channels. So you want to make sure that you're a part of that. Joining me in Las Vegas this weekend is my tag team partner for tonight, my brother from another mother, the whole podcasting show, Mr. Old School. Man, you got more nicknames than I do. We got to work on that. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jared Justice is in the house. What's up, man?
How's it going, brother?
You are on a Thursday edition of the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast for the first time in a long time to talk about some current stuff. How does that feel?
Man, it feels a little different, but I've been watching more current stuff since I have a reason to. I mean, we're going to SummerSlam.
Exactly.
So I have to stay up on it.
Absolutely. So we're going to get your thoughts on everything, but this tag team has turned into a triple threat, ladies and gentlemen, because I promised this. Our regular Thursday co-host, the Andy Darling himself, is also with us, Mr. Andy York, host of the Shandy Show. Andy, what's going on, dude? The three of us together breaking down this massive card.
Yeah, I know. It feels good. The band seems like it's back together. It's been a while since the three of us have done something like this. So, it's very exciting to come back and talk and be ready for SummerSlam.
It is going to be a blast. So again, make sure you follow us on social media at PBW Podcast for all of the happenings. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also make sure that you are listening on Sports Wire Sports Radio, ladies and gentlemen, sportnarium.com/player. Make sure you're listening in there, because this coming Saturday night, directly after SummerSlam, we are going live from Las Vegas to take your phone calls. It will be Jared, myself, and the Reverend Tom Bryce, the host of Sports Wire. We're going to be taking your phone calls, your immediate reaction. There's going to be a ton of special guests. It's going to be one big party after the party. I've shown the number up on the screen for all of you watching on YouTube. For those of you just listening, take down this phone number because we want your live feedback. 347-282-7735. All right, that is the number to call in. 347-282-7735. It is going to be a blast. Fellas, I have done a couple of guest spots on there promoting this show. I'm going to do another one later this week. It is going to be a blast, y'all. I'm pumped for this partnership with Sports Wire, and I think it's going a long way to getting the word out about this is just a place, Jared, you and I started this podcast back in 2018 as a place for wrestling fans to just hang out, talk about wrestling, and just share our thoughts, man. And, we're going places, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, all that sounds great. You've told me about it kind of in real time as it's been happening. And, yeah, man, so, I mean, I'm pumped not only to go and be there at SummerSlam, but this is going to be like my first big time of going live.
Yeah.
After something pretty big and significant. So that's going to be pretty cool.
It's going to be a lot of fun. And then Andy, we don't want to leave Andy out, because Andy is going to take the reins the next night for NXT TakeOver 36. That show is not going to be on Sports Wire unless you hear otherwise from us. So make sure you tune into our regular Facebook Live, our YouTube Live, all that kind of stuff, because Andy is going to throw that one down for us. because don't know what mine and Jared's status are going to be coming back from Las Vegas just yet. So Andy is, of course, going to throw that down for us. And if we can join in, we're going to join in. But we are going to talk about NXT TakeOver today because we want you to hear our thoughts. Man, let's run down the card. Jared, I definitely want to get your thoughts on this because Andy and I have talked a lot about some of the things leading up to this NXT show. I'm going to run down the card and then give me what sticks out to you. First of all, the NXT Championship on the line, Karrion Kross defending against the returning Samoa Joe to the ring for the first time. The Women's Championship on the line, best friends turned bitter enemies. Raquel Gonzalez defends against Dakota Kai. The NXT UK Championship is on the line. The humongous streak of Walter is on the line. He has held that title, Jared, since you and I saw him at NXT TakeOver New York defeat Pete Dunne. He has not lost it since. He faces an incredible test, a rematch against Ilya Dragunov. 2 out of 3 falls to end the Cole O'Reilly saga. Of course, it's Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly. The first fall is a traditional singles match. The second fall is a street fight. And if a third fall is needed, it is going to be inside of a solid steel cage. Not Big Blue, though. Anyway, and then the other match happening, NXT TakeOver is for the $1 Million Championship. It's LA Knight taking on Cameron Grimes one more time. If Cameron Grimes wins, obviously he's the champion. If Cameron Grimes loses, he doesn't have to be LA Knight's butler anymore, but Ted DiBiase himself will be replacing Cameron Grimes as the butler of LA Knight. So a stacked card for NXT, man. What sticks out to you?
I mean, of course, Walter. I mean, you remember how depressing it was to see that man after what we were expecting?
Oh, geez.
We expected something far better than what we got. But
I can't wait to hear Andy weigh in on this because he has the total opposite opinion. But go ahead, Jared.
Well, yeah. But Dragunov, he's awesome. I've watched him for a long time and have always enjoyed his stuff. So that, I mean, I think that'll be pretty cool. I think that's probably the main one that sticks out to me, really.
Samoa Joe and Karrion Kross. We haven't talked about the return of Samoa Joe, man. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm pumped, but I'm just afraid it's going to be for a one-time loss against Karrion Kross.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Andy, as I ran down that card, I don't know if you want to weigh in on what Jared said about Walter, or I know you and I have talked extensively on the Pipe Bomb Wrestling podcast about Samoa Joe. I know you're a big fan of Raquel and Dakota going at it. Obviously, Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. And this stuff with LA Knight and Cameron Grimes, it is television gold, ladies and gentlemen. If you've missed it, you need to go back and watch it. It is hilarious. Give me some quick thoughts on the card, Andy. What sticks out to you?
Yeah, I think the Walter match sticks out to me as well. I just think it's going to be really great. Their first match was definitely underrated and underviewed, so I think this is a bigger stage for both of them. So I'm expecting them to kind of pull out all the stops for that. And even though, the Karrion Kross situation on Raw hasn't always been the best, I'm still very excited for Samoa Joe and Karrion Kross, just because I think it's going to be more than likely Joe takes the win here and just kind of carries that belt for a little bit while Kross kind of goes to the main roster and does his thing. And so I think that's really exciting. I think it's going to be a great match because I know this is probably going to be, they're just going to pull out all the stops again and let those two guys just kind of go at it and beat the crap out of each other. So that's what I'm fully expecting from those two. And the Raquel Gonzalez and the Dakota Kai thing is going to be a lot of fun too, just because I hope this is Dakota's shining moment. I doubt it is because they had her losing on main event a couple weeks ago and that kind of seemed like it derailed some things, but you never know what's going to happen there. So I'm excited for those three matches as well. Plus, obviously, the Cole and O'Reilly is probably going to steal the show, but those are the things I'm looking forward to.
So Samoa Joe, I'm going to agree with you, Andy, and say that Samoa Joe wins the championship here. Jared, are we 3 for 3? Do you think Joe wins the title or do you think Kross keeps it even though he's doing this main roster stuff?
I'm still going with, what you all have laid out does sound like it could very likely happen. I just don't see them giving Samoa Joe another run. So I just don't think he's going to win. And I think this is going to be one and done for him, at least for a little while.
I think it could go either way, honestly. I think, Jared, that's a great point about Joe. And I think, Andy, you brought up a great point, too, about Cross on the main roster. So, I'm putting this thing 50-50. I'm going to pick Joe, but it will not shock me if Joe loses, just because it's so unexpected. Let's get predictions around the horn really quick for Walter and Dragunov. Walter's big streak against arguably his toughest competitor to date. Jared, you said you're pretty high. Well, both you guys said you're high on this match. I'm not, so I'm going to go ahead and just say that Walter's going to retain. I think that they just continue to push him. I think Sam Roberts, I mentioned him earlier on his podcast. He brought up a great point that they can move Walter over the main roster, and he could be a force there. Andy, what's your thoughts and what's your prediction for that one?
To me, this is the one that's more like 50-50, which is kind of weird with Walter's, big streak. I think, honestly, though, this is where Walter loses the UK Championship, and I don't think he goes to the main roster. I think they take him to proper NXT and let him kind of be part of the main event scene there, because Samoa Joe or Karrion Kross versus Walter for the NXT title is just money waiting to happen. So I can definitely see him losing here and kind of rising up Ilya Dreykov's stock at NXT UK for somebody like Rampage and him to kind of go back and forth, but then also have Walter come over to NXT and just kind of let him take over, especially if we're going to lose some of these guys that go up to the main roster or whatever, you need to start filling some spots as well.
Right. I agree. Jared?
I think Dragunov definitely, I think he wins. And I don't know what they do with Walter beyond that, but I think Andy's ideas are great. But I don't know who else can give Walter any kind of competition besides Dragunov. And you can move him here, move him there, and he has no competition. So I think Andy's plan makes the most sense. I
agree. Like I said, Andy, it is 50-50. You're right. I don't really have a dog in the race. I went on record and said that I was very concerned about the NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver match between Walter and Tommaso Ciampa, and it ended up being my favorite thing to come out of WrestleMania weekend. So Walter surprised me before. Walter's really disappointed me before. So we'll see what happens when that match rolls around. Another match that I know that we're all three invested in that I want to get Jared's thoughts on, because again, Andy and I have covered it extensively. Jared, it's almost like you're a special guest on the Thursday edition. So I want to get your thoughts on what's been going on with Adam Cole, the rumors. Will he, won't he? Is he main roster bound? Is he going to AEW? His contract supposedly is run out twice now. We got this big 2 out of 3 falls match coming up against Kyle O'Reilly. Does Cole come out on top? Does he lose on the way out? What's your thoughts on this whole situation with him?
I almost see it being like a CM Punk thing from back in the day. I think that it's possible they will keep making him look good. He being Cole, pronouns pal, you know what I'm saying?
Pronouns pal.
So I think they'll keep making him look good until they find out what his decision is going to be. And I think if he's smart, he'll go where his girlfriend's at, AEW, spend some time there, raise his stock, show McMahon that he can be a player, even if he is a smaller wrestler. Right. Show what he can do in AEW. Since I don't see McMahon giving him a very big chance. Right.
I think if he does end up going to the main roster, like it's been rumored that he's been offered a contract or he hasn't been offered, whatever rumor and innuendo that you believe, it's all convoluted at this point. It's become my new favorite word recently. It's all really convoluted at this point as far as his contract situation is concerned. But I think if he does go to the main roster, typically you see a guy lose on his way out, no matter where he's going. I think Cole wins this on his way out. I think if he's going to the main roster and he's as valuable as I have went on record and said that he is valuable, especially even in Vince McMahon's eyes, I think that he wins on the way out to make him look strong. And then we see him debut very, very soon on the main roster. Andy, what are your thoughts and prediction on the match?
Yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from, but my only concern with that is that Vince has shown in the past and very recently that he does not care what happens in NXT. So I think Cole losing here to O'Reilly doesn't really hurt him if he does go to the main roster. I don't think it really hurts him, and it elevates Kyle O'Reilly even more. So I think Adam Cole kind of goes out here, loses to Kyle O'Reilly to set him up as somebody, a main event status guy in NXT, but also to kind of send Adam Cole more than likely to the main roster, or if he decides to go somewhere else. But I definitely see Cole doing the job to his friend here and kind of helping elevate him.
Well, you just brought it up there at the end. If we can all pretty much agree this is going to be his last match in NXT, no matter where he goes. So what better way to go out than to wrestle one of your best friends? Mm-hmm. Whether you beat him or you put him over or what have you, you steal the show at TakeOver with one of your best friends on the way out. That's a pretty awesome thing to do. You got to be happy if you're both Cole and O'Reilly as far as that's concerned. All right, if you are just now joining us, welcome to the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast here on Sports Wire Radio, or if you're listening on demand on one of our channels, wherever you find your audio podcast, and on YouTube. Thank you so much for stumbling upon our show. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. We are so glad that we have not run you off yet. I am your phenomenal host, Mr. Podcasting, Chris Belcher. You can follow me at Chris Belcher24. The show is at PBW Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We drop brand new shows every Monday and every Thursday. So make sure you are subscribed on all those platforms. Interact with us on social media and buy yourself a Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast t-shirt to show your support for the greatest wrestling podcast on the planet. Just kidding. ProWrestlingTees.com/PBW podcast is where you can find those shirts. I am joined by my brother from another mother, Jared Justice, the indie darling, Andy York. And here we are, guys. We have just ran down the card for NXT TakeOver 36. Now it's time to move on to WWE's SummerSlam, the biggest party of the summer. All right, I'm going to run down the card, and then we're going to get, just like we did the NXT, we're going to get our thoughts, what we think is going to happen, predictions, maybe some standout matches. All right, the WWE Universal Championship is on the line as Roman Reigns defends against the 16-time champion, John Cena. The WWE Championship is also on the line as Bobby Lashley puts his title up against Goldberg. The Raw Women's Championship on the line in a triple threat match, Nikki ASH against Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. Tentatively, I guess, the SmackDown Women's Championship is on the line, Bianca Belair against Sasha Banks. We'll get more into that in a little bit, I am sure. In a highly anticipated 7 years in the making grudge match, the Rated R superstar Edge takes on the Friday Night Messiah, I guess, Seth Rollins. You've got for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, Dominic and Rey Mysterio against Jimmy and Jay, the Usos. United States Championship on the line, Damian Priest challenges Sheamus. Raw Tag Team titles, AJ Styles and Omos against RK Bro. And then you have Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal. You also have Alexa Bliss and Eva Marie. Jared, I ran through that card. What's the first thing that really stands out to you since we're going to Las Vegas that's going to grab your attention that you're really excited for?
Well, of course, it's going to be Cena. I mean, of course. It has to be. And Roman. I think that's going to be awesome. I mean, that's the whole thing that makes me want to go, is mainly just to see that match. Sure. And I'm looking forward to the Banks match. I think she's looked impressive lately. And I really want to see Edge, and I want to hear that pop whenever Edge comes out.
Oh, that pop is going to be insane.
So those are the big things that I think of. It'll kind of be a little curious, I guess, to see what kind of reaction that Seth gets, because so much of his stick, as he evolved from just the Messiah or whatever to now this kind of, I mean, I don't know what he is, but he's evolved to something charismatic, I guess. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of reaction he gets live after all this stuff that's been taped and they've edited it and, done whatever they wanted to do with the crowd reactions.
Right. Andy, what you got?
Yeah, I think the Seth Edge match is probably my most anticipated match that I'm looking forward to. just because of the story and how rich it is. And, I think both those guys are going to have a really strong match, a really great match. I'm also, like you guys said, looking forward to the Roman Cena match just because John Cena's first time in the ring in a long time, and kind of makes this, Roman's done some of his best work the last year or so, and so this kind of just elevates him even more. So I think those two matches are probably the ones I'm looking forward to the most. The one I'm the most nervous about, and I think, Chris, you probably know this, is the Bobby Lashley-Goldberg match because I am terrified of Goldberg winning. I am terrified of Goldberg winning.
Listen, I agree with both of you, and the Edge and Seth Rollins is obviously my most anticipated, excited, all the things, because, I'm wearing Seth Rollins' shirt right now. I've been on record as saying that these are two of my top favorite wrestlers of all time, and they finally get to collide, and Lord willing, I will get to see it in person. So I am extremely pumped for this match. But, Andy, to your point, I am very excited about Lashley and Goldberg. And you guys can laugh at me all you freaking want. But for a kid who was WCW through and through in the Monday Night Wars, I have never seen Goldberg. I don't care if I'm seeing him at 54 or 34. I'm going to see Goldberg wrestle, even if it's for 5 minutes. Yeah. So that is pushing it. You are correct. So the kid in me is like, I'm jumping for joy because I cannot wait to see this. That's just my thoughts. Jared, you mentioned Sasha and Bianca. Let's go there for a minute. Rumor and innuendo would have you to believe that these two ladies were pulled from the house shows this weekend due to unforeseen circumstances. And if you read the dirt sheets, this match is in jeopardy of actually happening. So
what are the dirt sheets saying? Like, why were they pulled? Everybody
is saying COVID.
Gotcha.
So that's what everybody's saying. I don't know. I don't know what to believe, honestly. Andy, do you have any more insight on this?
No, all I've seen is that it's just in jeopardy and that they pulled the matches from the weekend, or they pulled the matches from the live shows just because of concern and probably more than likely because of COVID. So I don't know if this match will happen at SummerSlam. I'm sure we'll see. If it doesn't happen at SummerSlam, I'm sure we'll see it in like 2 weeks on SmackDown or something like that.
For us.
Yeah.
Not at all good for us, because when Jared and I were debating back and forth on whether to go to SummerSlam or not, this match was in the discussion as to why we should go. Yeah. This was one of the ones that we were like, to see this rematch in person, because Jared and I are both big Sasha Banks fans. This is a marquee attraction. And Jared, this would hurt the SummerSlam card if they lose this.
Oh man. Yeah, it will. Significantly. I think, you have all the little girls that want to be wrestlers who are watching this match. You have guys like us that are big time Banks fans. You have all the girls that are big time Banks fans. The women's matches, they're not, just kind of, we'll go take a leak. That's not how it is anymore. They carry the card a lot of times.
Except for the triple threat match at SummerSlam, which I will be taking a leak during.
And the Eva Marie Alexa Bliss match.
Listen, I'm a Bliss fan. I'm going to be watching that match. Okay. I just am. Honestly, I think that match was added to the card in case Sasha and Bianca doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I really do. I really think that's why they added it.
Could be.
I could be wrong. Let's go to Roman and Cena. Obviously, that's the marquee match. That's the main event. That's the headline. That's the poster. That's the marquee attraction, is putting John Cena back in a WWE ring for the first time in a very, very long time. Jared, you texted me the other night I believe you texted me, I think that was on Friday that you texted. Maybe it was Saturday morning when you texted me and said, have you seen the promo from Friday night yet? Dude, that promo from Cena and Roman, Holy smoke. I mean, you talk about some shots fired. I mean, man, what, dude, I'm telling you, it's promos like that is why we love wrestling. I mean, that right there is why we love wrestling.
And what was so great about it too was like, I don't think the majority of that was planned. Roman says that he does his own stuff. And you can see Cena, man, he's pacing back and forth. You can see that mind working. Yep. He's thinking, how am I going to get this guy back after he just mentioned Nikki Bella?
Right. Well, then, and to your point, like, I'm sure there were a couple of bullet points that were given and just said, hey, this is kind of the direction we want to go, but take it where you want. You just said that Roman has said he does his own stuff. And we know Cena, the reason Cena is as over as he is because he freestyle rapped backstage and the right people heard it and they decided to put it on TV, you know? So it's not like he's lost that gift of gab over time. You know what I mean? That was in 2002. So I think a lot of this was unscripted. And Andy, with CM Punk in the news on AEW, which we'll get to next week, I'm sure, and with Dean Ambrose being now Jon Moxley in AEW, Cena bringing those up with them in the news. I mean, holy cow, right?
Yeah, he definitely does not care. He's at the point now with WWE that whether they're going to do fire him or not bring him back. I mean, he's at that level with him. He's like at the Rock level. He can pull out his phone and call CM Punk, and Vince McMahon's not going to do anything like The Rock did. Right. So I absolutely agree. I love the promos between those two. It reminded me of their first feud a couple years ago when Cena absolutely destroyed Roman, and now Roman's able to hold his own. So you kind of see his elevation and see his progression up to this point. But promos like that are why John Cena is one of the greatest promo guys of all time, just because he does his own thing and he doesn't care who he offends and he just has fun with it. So I absolutely love that. Was probably like the best moment from Friday Night SmackDown for me was that entire promo.
Absolutely. I totally agree. You just look at Andy, you mentioned it, that's exactly what I thought of was their promo from, I think it was 2017, maybe 2018. I think
so.
When they had their feud, and Cena basically said, the only reason I'm here, Roman, is because you can't do your job right. And basically he said the same thing on Friday night. But Jared, one of the reasons I love this promo is not just the shots that John Cena took, because obviously the Punk and the Ambrose and even Roman with the Nikki Bella, all that stuff was great. But one of the things that I really loved was the storytelling that John Cena incorporated. He said, look, Paul Heyman knows that I'm one of the toughest guys he's ever stood across the ring from. He knows that I can go toe to toe with anybody. And Cena said that you can literally kill me in this match. He said, but if I can somehow rise up, all I need is 1, 2, 3. And Roman immediately becomes a name in the history books. Man, what a story that John Cena told in that promo. That's what really grabbed me.
Oh, yeah. And just the fact that he brought up that this would be title win number 17, and nobody else has been mentioning that.
Right.
So, yeah, he incorporated that into the storyline. I think that was the first time on WWE that they've actually brought that up.
Yep, I'm pretty sure you're right.
Again, he's above Flair.
Right. And Andy, with Flair seemingly going to AEW with his appearance in AAA this past weekend with Andrade. Again, we're going to get to that next week. For all of you beyond the Federation fans, AEW fans, CCW fans, we're going to catch you back up next week. Okay, don't worry. But with Flair seemingly going to AEW, again, I'm gonna go to Sam Roberts on this. I listened to his preview, which is why I felt the need to take a shot at him. No harm, no foul. I like Sam Roberts' podcast. But anyway, he brought up, Jared, your point that nobody's really mentioning that this would have Cena pass Flair. So, Andy, is it one of those things where WWE wants to hold on to their records and Cena might win this match just to put him above Flair and then maybe drop the title in a couple weeks?
I don't know if they do that, because they did that kind of when he won his 16th. They kind of just had him hold it for 2 weeks and then he lost it in the Elimination Chamber. And so I don't know if that's what they're going to do. I feel like if Cena was going to win, they wouldn't make that the bigger story of the 17th time. They'd want to really like drive that home that if he wins this is going to be his 17th championship. So I don't know if that's kind of the direction they're going to go. I think honestly, this is just to build up Roman even more for, you know, the rumored a WrestleMania opponent in The Rock with him. And so I doubt that. To me, I don't think this is Roman losing to Cena. To me, it's more of elevating Roman's status even more by having beat Cena. But I could be wrong because I've been wrong several times before about my predictions with WWE.
So you're picking Roman to win this match, Andy, correct?
I am.
Jared, are you picking Roman?
I think I'm going to go Cena. And let me throw this in before we forget it, because we kind of brought it up and then kind of let it go.
Okay.
But the mention in there that Cena threw in about, you know, that I'm one of the toughest SOBs to stand across the ring from. Why? Because a man named Brock Lesnar stood across the ring from Cena. Insert Brock Lesnar for a possible future storyline right there.
Yep. Oh, 100%. That's exactly what he was talking about. He did not even have to say Brock Lesnar, but Jared, you're exactly right. You know, he inserted that, just another nugget that John Cena dropped in there. I am going to go Roman Reigns, but I'm not 100% on that. I am very much majority Roman Reigns, but a Cena win would be awesome. And Andy, to your point about the 17, yeah, they might bring it up, but that might be a tool that they use afterwards instead of before. You know, so Cena wins, then it's all about 17. You know, we have the big celebration, yada, yada, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's high. Let me just say that before last week's promo, it would be like telling me that the sky is green and me saying you're stupid. If you told me that John Cena was going to win, I'd say you're stupid. Jared, if you remember, I'll throw this back. I know you remember. We were on the sidewalk, on the way to the Superdome for WrestleMania 34. And Jared said, if you have to pick one for sure thing that's going to happen at WrestleMania 34, what is the one for sure thing that's going to happen? And I said, Roman Reigns is walking out Universal Champion. Guess what didn't happen?
I remember that.
Was that the Brock match where he was bloodied?
Yes, that was the Brock match. Yeah. So, again, if last week, if you would have asked me, what's the one thing that's going to happen? Roman Reigns is going to defeat John Cena. Now I'm not so sure. You know, now I'm just not so sure. I do think Roman wins, but I cannot tell you for certainty that he's going to. What sticks out to everybody else? Anything really jump off the card in the Raw Women's Championship match? I know we got some tag team title matches that I'm looking forward to personally. Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal is an interesting personal rivalry that they're throwing on there. Anything else, Andy, really stick out to you that you're excited for?
I mean, you know, I'm a big RK Bros fan, so I'm very excited for that.
Shut up.
I bought a T-shirt yesterday. That's coming in. The little
you did not.
I did, and I'm wearing it next week. I'm definitely wearing it next week to celebrate their tag title victory. I am all on the RK Bro train. I'm telling you, man. I am all aboard the scooter. I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm for it. I do. Like, I think that this is their moment. This is definitely their time to tell this story for Randy to finally turn on Matt Riddle for good and have their feud going. But I'm actually very excited for that match, and I'm excited to hear the pop that they're going to get all around you, Chris. All around you is going to be a massive pop.
And I bought the T-shirt earlier.
Yeah, I did.
Chris,
I did.
You know what? And then he just kept right on going.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, that was great.
Oh my gosh.
I needed that. That was like a Bobby Heenan classic. You know what?
Oh gosh. Oh man. Jared, what's your thoughts on this? I'm going to put you on the spot on this. Your thoughts on the triple threat match for the Raw Women's title. You've got this crazy run from Nikki ASH after cashing in Money in the Bank. Still got Charlotte and Rhea in there. What's your thoughts on that whole situation? Because me personally, I think the booking leading up to this match has been awful. I mean, it's like every wrong decision they can make, they've made it.
Yeah. I mean, I hate the whole Nikki Ash character. I think this is one of the worst things she's done. And then now you've got Charlotte in there. And who was the other one?
Rhea Ripley.
Exactly. Rhea Ripley used to be so awesome. Do you remember? I think she was one of the ones that we saw at an NXT show.
She was. Yep. She was taking pictures during the, was it during Walter's match? Maybe that she was taking pictures during?
Thank God we had something to look at.
No, it was. No, it was the women's match because she was out there watching the women's match.
Oh,
that's what it was.
That's not as funny. But anyways,
I saw your thunder. My bad.
Rhea Ripley, she was so awesome, and now they've made her lose at several times. That was very unfortunate for her. Just I think her character.
Right.
So I mean, I think Rhea needs to win. I think she should win. But this stupid Nikki Ash thing, I mean, what? I'm afraid they're going to want to keep it going, and so she's going to win.
She's over, man. She's over like Rover.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right, 2 quick things before we sign off here. First of all, Jared, I love that this thought has popped into my head about this guarantee, so I'm going to run with that. Andy, if you have one 100% guarantee for SummerSlam, this thing is 100%. It's going to happen. What is your 100% guarantee?
Other than like you guys said, other than that triple threat, probably gonna be terrible. Probably that. I don't know. To me, I think Roman is 100% going to win. So I'm going to go with the Roman 100% going to win.
All right, Jared.
I think that Hulk Hogan comes out to a real American. Much to the chagrin of everybody in attendance. 100% guaranteed.
All right. Jared's picking 100% Hulk Hogan comes out. I'm going to pick 100% that Dominic Mysterio turns on Rey.
That's a good one.
That's my 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so looking forward to it. So I think it's going to be great. All right. The other thing that I want to bring up before we put a bow on this week's episode, shout out to Botavian, is we always do our high spots and turd sandwiches on the Thursday edition, but we're going to do them a little bit different for this show. We're going to predict our high spot and turd sandwich for the entire SummerSlam event. So, Andy, I'm going to throw to you first. Give me what you think is going to be the best thing about SummerSlam and the worst thing about SummerSlam.
That's hard. I think the best thing about SummerSlam, are we talking like the best thing that's going to happen or like
what, best thing, best moment, best match, best feeling?
Okay. I think that the best moment is going to be after the Raw Women's Championship match. Whoever wins, Becky Lynch is going to come out. And I think that's going to blow the roof off the place.
I totally agree. All right. And what do you think is still going to be the worst thing? And you can't say Alexa Bliss versus Eva Marie because that's easy.
Okay, fine. The worst thing is going to be Goldberg winning the WWE Championship from Bobby Lashley. That's the worst thing that's going to happen.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, I'll go next. I think the worst thing about SummerSlam is going to be it's going to be RK Bro winning the tag team titles.
Throwing the shot back across. I see it.
No. I legit think that's going to be the worst thing that happens on SummerSlam. And yes, maybe I'm throwing a shot back at you, but no, I definitely think that'll be the worst. The best thing that's going to happen at SummerSlam is going to be Edge and Seth Rollins stealing the show. I mean, bar none, it happens. It's going to be the thing we walk away from and just with our minds blown. Edge and Seth Rollins to me. All right, Jared, what you got?
I think the best thing will be the story coming out of the main event. I think it's very possible that Brock shows up or somehow Brock is mentioned, or that if nothing else, that something big will happen, like Cena does win and that kind of throws everybody off point.
Yep.
I think very, very, very far, toss of the stone towards the big creek or whatever. I think maybe you might have something said about The Rock after the main event.
Yep.
So I don't think he's showing up, but that would be what I'm saying is really, really far out there. That could happen.
And what's going to be the worst thing about SummerSlam?
Everything besides like the big three matches.
Okay.
I'm serious. Chris knows this, that I said several times, man, I just don't think this card is going to be good enough for us to go. And you sold me on Cena and Roman Reigns, and then the women's match. And then, now we have the Superstore that's going to be there and see in Las Vegas. So, everything out there, I did not think this was going to be the best card.
But you were wrong, because this card, I really think the undercard of this show, if given a chance, is going to be really good. We didn't mention Sheamus and Damian Priest. I think that's going to be a really good match. I really think the Mysterios and Usos is going to be a barn burner, regardless of if Dominic turns or not. I think it's going to be great. AJ and Omos will be good to see anyway. So I think the undercard is going to be good. It's just those big four matches, as long as Sasha and Bianca happens, those big four matches are absolutely insane. Yeah. Enough to fill up a stadium, that's for sure. Yeah. All right. Before we sign off, Andy, tell us what's coming up on the Shandy Show very, very soon.
Yeah, so we're actually this Friday, we're going to be covering the second episode of Disney Plus's new show, What If? The Marvel What If. We're going to talk about that and cover that, plus some other groundbreaking news and some other things that have happened this week in the MCU that we're going to kind of cover and talk about. So we're going to dive into all of that this weekend. So we're looking forward to that.
Make sure you go subscribe to The Shandy Show on all the major platforms. You can follow him at The Shandy Show on all social media platforms. Make sure you go check out that show. It's a great show, especially if that universe is your bag. All right. Again, want to make sure that everybody knows, head on over to prowrestlingtees.com/PBW podcast. Buy yourself a fancy shirt. Make sure that you are listening every Monday and Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 Central Time on SportsWire. We are there just about every day, but our new episodes drop on Mondays and Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. We are going to be live. I'm going to flash this up on the screen for those of you who are watching. We are going to be live directly after SummerSlam. Jared, myself, and the Reverend Tom Bryce on SportsWire. You can check that out at sportanariumradio.com/player. We want you to listen, but we want you to call in. We want your live thoughts. There's going to be special guests. It's going to be a great time. Call in at 347-282-7735. Again, Saturday night, immediately following SummerSlam, 347-282-7735. Live call-in show, live from Las Vegas. It's going to be a blast. We want you all to participate, and we appreciate your support very much. If you can't listen live, it will be available in our archives to be replayed later on. And then don't miss Sunday night's live show talking about NXT TakeOver with our man, the indie darling Andy York, steering the ship. Jared and I are going to do our best to participate on that, but no guarantees. So that being said, Jared, Andy, the three of us need to do this more often. It was a blast.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. All right, guys. This has been your official SummerSlam and NXT TakeOver preview, the greatest SummerSlam preview in the world. I'm your phenomenal host, Chris Belcher. Thank you so much for checking out the Pipe Bomb Wrestling Podcast as we give the old Larry Sabisco sign off. We'll see you guys down the road.